I'm documenting taking a Facebook ad account from zero to spending $300K in its first 30 days. Now, we're actually going to end up spending about $220K, not $300K. I've explained why in the previous videos, so I won't go into that. But we're nearly there. We're towards the finish line. We've now finished the advertising or the registration part of the launch. And now the event that our client is hosting has started. And we're going to run the event for the next couple of weeks. And then at the end of that, we're going to sell. And then I'll be able to document and show you the return that we've made on the ads. But right now, we're going to analyze the ad performance, talk about what worked, what didn't work, and what I would probably change in the future. So you can kind of take those lessons and use it for your own business. So you can see on the screen right now, I'm inside the ad account. We've turned all the ads off. What we spent on registration ads, $209,000. We got about 33,000 leads and a cost per lead of $6.25. So I'll go to this tracking sheet just because it makes things a little bit easier. I don't want to talk through some numbers. So overall, pretty happy with the results. I was really gunning to try and get the cost per lead at about $5. But as I mentioned in the previous videos, we could probably comfortably go up to about $7.50 and still make some significant profit. So we finished at $6.25, which is pretty much bang in the middle of those two numbers. So in the grand scheme of things, I think it's good. We're in like a competitive niche, which is, around like a business niche. So most people would be happy with a cost per lead of like, $10, $15 in this type of niche. So I think we overperformed a little bit against the market in terms of getting people to register. But I still feel like we could have done a little bit better, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, 33,500 leads, $6.24 is a pretty good result. We did basically have, I thought we were mapping out pretty well. Like if you look at, I'll just move this over here. We had a projection where we were like, okay, in the first week, we'll spend about 4K a day, then to 7, then to 9. And then we can just ride 9 until pretty much the end of the launch because we had 4 weeks to advertise this event for the client. Now, obviously, we didn't stick exactly to that, but there wasn't really like any last minute scaling or anything like that. We got up to a good healthy spend of like 7K a day pretty early in the launch, which meant that we didn't have a lot of pressure towards the end to be like, wow, we need to spend like 10, 15 grand today, which helped because it meant there was no last minute scaling, which meant the cost per lead didn't get like crazy out of hand, which sometimes it can get to if you're spending 5K a day and then you're like, oh shit, we need to spend more money and you up the budget to like 10K a day. Typically, if you just do that straight away, the cost per lead's going to get way out of whack. So we didn't do that, which was good. We did have a little bit of a fault here. So you can see around the end of Feb, and I honestly don't have the reason why this happened, which is pretty annoying. We were doing pretty well, and I was like, wow, we can just keep this cost per lead, and we're going to be sweet. But something happened here where just the cost per lead just went way out of whack. There's nothing in the numbers to say like, oh, this is the reason why. The CPMs went up a little bit, and that meant the cost per click went up a little bit. The registration conversion was pretty much similar. So there's nothing crazy that happened, but that did set us back a little bit. So you can see here on this day, we ended up cutting down the ad spend a little bit. And then we're getting towards the end of the launch, so we just had to increase the budget. And you can see towards the end, annoyingly, like the cost per lead was getting up to like $7.50, which wasn't good. But again, overall, $6.24, pretty good result. We did have one error here. This is a good lesson. You can see that the registration conversion dropped to 22% on this day. And that was because one of the main funnels that we were running was sending them to a Jot form effectively to basically apply for this event. And we maxed out our subscription on Jot form. We had too many applications. So Jot form basically paused in the middle of us running ads, which wasn't very fun. And yeah, so obviously for a certain period of time, I don't know exactly how long, but it was a good couple of hours, I think, where we were spending money and people were trying to register and apply. And they were at the end of the application, it was basically saying, no, this account is full. Which is not good because then we got a ton of comments on the ads being like, hey, it's full, it's over. And we got people messaging the page. The client saw it as well, which wasn't very good. And yeah, usually for this launch, for this client, we've used Facebook lead forms, which we did do. But the cost per lead was getting a bit too high. So we tested, and I've talked about this in the previous videos, we launched more ad campaigns that were going to a Jot form, and they were actually performing better. And I just think it's a better quality of lead as well, versus someone answering a couple of questions on a Facebook lead form and submitting their application, versus someone clicking a link, going to an external website, going through on the Jot form. We actually had like 4 or 5 questions and then submitting that info. I think that lead is a lot warmer and it makes the experience a lot more memorable versus someone with the Facebook lead form. So not only were the Jot form ads generally cheaper, I think they would create like a better quality lead as well. So for this launch, we launched a lot more of people through the Jot form, and we haven't done that before. So we launched a lot more people through the Jot form. We launched more campaigns with the Jot form, which meant we were getting thousands of leads through the Jot form. And yeah, that's an error on our part. We should have been on top of the subscription. I'll be honest, it didn't cross my mind, which is annoying because we just haven't pushed that much volume through a Jot form before. We're typically good on top of like Zapier and stuff because we use Zapier for the lead forms to obviously connect the CRM with the leads. And we're on top of that subscription because in previous launches, we've also maxed out that subscription in the middle of the launch and people aren't getting added to the email sequence and stuff. But yeah, we kind of fucked up with the Jot form, unfortunately. But we caught it early. Again, I think maybe max a couple of hours, but as you can see, the conversion rate dropped massively. So we dropped the ball a little bit there, and obviously the cost per lead went up. So that's one thing. Second thing as well is another reason why we moved to the Jot form. And I think next time I'm going to launch just with the Jot form or the application or an external landing page. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. I don't know whether it's because we're pushing tons of volume through the form, but we were getting multiple messages. Like I'm talking probably like 20 plus messages, I'd say maybe a day, between the messages to our Facebook page and the comments on our ads. And they were basically saying, because the way the lead form worked on Facebook was we'd ask them a few questions. Then at the end of the form, we'd say, hey, like the first task is to join the Facebook group. And there'd be a button at the end of the form. If you've ever done like a form on Facebook before, you can have like a button that takes them to an external website. So we were like, the first task that you need to do to finish your application is request to join the Facebook group. And this will like finalize your application. And there's a button there that says, take me to the Facebook group. We were getting a mix of comments and messages, probably 20 plus of them every single day from people saying it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. And I don't understand why. Obviously, we were getting, literally we were getting 1,000, like maybe like hundreds, thousands of people requesting to join the Facebook group every day. So like it was working for a majority of people, but there was still a high percentage of people that they were clicking that link and it wasn't taking them anywhere. And that not only means that these people aren't requesting to join the Facebook group, but obviously it's just not a good experience, right? People see this random ad, it makes them a big promise. It's like, hey, apply here for free. They're probably already really skeptical anyway. The fact that they go through an application and then the first instruction is to click a button to join a group and they click the button and it doesn't work. That's not a very good experience. They're probably going to label it as a scam or something doesn't work or, whatever. Like it's not a good experience. They're not going to be like, oh, this is a company I really want to like learn from. Secondly, as well, people were complaining that the button, they were obviously seeing the ad on the phone. They were going through the lead form, but then when they clicked the button to go to the Facebook group, it wasn't opening the group in the app. It was opening up the group, I think, in a URL. And therefore, they had to like log in again. Or when they clicked the button, I wasn't sure on the exact issue, but either they were clicking the button and then it was automatically logging them out of Facebook and asking them to log in again. And obviously that just screams like, we're going to try and steal your data or it's a weird website or anything like that. So again, we got some bad comments about that, which is not good. So again, I don't know whether it's just because we were pushing, 1,000 plus people a day through this form. But, we had like, in the beginning when we were running majority of lead form ads, we were pushing like 4,000 people clicking the form. I don't know if that has an issue with it. But, I'm sure there's people out there who's spending more money than us on lead forms. We're only spending like, less than 10K a day. But Anyway, so that was like a big thing I wouldn't do again. Next time, we're going to probably launch just with an application form on a ClickFunnels page or whatever it is. And we'll keep on top of the Jotform subscription to make sure that we, it doesn't go down again in the middle of a launch. So that's some more like technical issues that we ran into, which kind of always happens. Like maybe it doesn't, but for me, I can try and prepare, I can try and get the team. Like we've done this process a lot now, and everything generally runs pretty smoothly, but there's always some, tech issue that happens that maybe you weren't expecting, or maybe I should have expected that I didn't. But yeah, it's kind of like a continual learning process. As you spend more money, you push more volume through different funnels, you always find new kind of like tech problems and stuff. So there's like a few more tech stuff. I'll talk about a little bit more strategy now as well. But before we dive into the ad account and we look at more of the data, we can now kind of project potentially like what we're trying to make. So I did talk previously about the potential KPIs for this launch based on previous data. So previously, our average cash intake per customer is 1.3K. Our average revenue with payment plans is 2.8 because we have two offers. One's 2K, one's 5K. This time, though, the offer is 3K or 5K. So we've actually increased the price of the lower product. So it's going to be interesting to see, does this have a big impact on conversions, or are the conversions going to stay similar, but obviously the cash that we collect is going to be much higher? We'll see. But that's one thing that we're changing. But before, I basically made predictions that, a cost per lead of $7.50, a lead conversion of 0.9%, which is quite low. From the ads, I'd want to get it above 1%, but whatever. I want to play like worst case scenario. $7.50, 0.9% lead conversion based on our previous averages of cash on day one or month one and the revenue with payment plans per customer on average, we would get this type of result. So cash collected, 368K, total revenue, 750, cash profit, 148, revenue profit, 539. So a cash ROAS is 1.68 and a revenue ROAS is 3.45. Again, not great numbers, but like when you spend 200K from 0 to 200K, it's decent, but it's not amazing. But now we can plug in, the actual cost per lead that we did get, which is $6.24. So that obviously makes things look a little bit prettier. So if we put in $6.24, you can see that we got around those types of leads. We did only spend 209,000, so it's not going to be 220. So let's bring that back down. And I'll just put round numbers for now. So, again, it's not 100% accurate because the leads is slightly off, but you get the point, just trying to make projections. So based on these numbers, we'll get about 300 customers, which means cash collected, 400, revenue, 867, cash profit, over 200, revenue profit, over 650, which means a cash ROAS of 2 and a revenue ROAS of 4, which is more in line with that's what I feel like we're going to get. I wanted to play a little bit of worst case scenario. Obviously, I'm going to try and push for even more. But this is what I would kind of probably expect to double cash and then probably get doubled that. With the ROAS, I think that would put us in a pretty good spot. You spend 200 grand, you make 400 back. I think everyone's pretty happy at that point. So obviously, again, if we can do a better job with the conversion, maybe we get like a 1% conversion, then obviously it gets a little bit prettier. But again, I don't want to overhype anything or overpromise. So we'll just see what the results are. So we'll change that back to 209,000. And we'll just see how we go from there. Obviously, again, we do the sell a week on Monday. I don't know exactly. Yeah, this video will probably come out on the same day. So it'll be a week on Monday. We do the sell. So it'll be a week or two before we get the results. But everything's going pretty good so far. Right, let's have a look inside the ad account then. So this is what we are looking at. Let's see if this can go over here. So I think the biggest thing there's two learnings from a strategy point of view is I think that I didn't have enough confidence in the ads when I should have. Because this isn't the first time we're doing this type of launch for this offer for the client. We've done it a lot now. We've made the millions of dollars with this exact process. So I should have more confidence with the ads, but I didn't. So what I did was I launched multiple different campaigns, and I talked about this in the previous strategy. I launched multiple different campaigns. We had basically, you can see here that this campaign here is targeting a US audience, and it's just got image ads, so like static image ads. This one is targeting a US audience, but it's just got video ads. This is targeting a US audience, but it's going to the Jot form that I talked about. These two that I just talked about will go into a Facebook lead form. And I created another campaign that was sending people to a US audience with video, which is, I don't think it performed super well. It's this one down here, which I'm hovering over. So they're like 4 campaigns targeting the US. So realistically, my idea was like, I was a bit hesitant to go out straight out the gate and just launch a campaign for leads, which with like a 2K, 3K budget. So I split it up to spend like $500 a day. And the idea was like to slowly scale up from there. But I think that I messed up a little bit there. I think that I could have probably launched with just a higher budget, and it would have kept the campaign management a lot more simple, but also it would have stopped, the different campaigns competing with each other. It's all broad targeting, so it's not like we're all targeting like the same interests or anything like that. But we basically had 4 campaigns with the exact same setup, except from just different ads within the campaigns, and some had a different link, to be fair. So I'd probably keep the application, the Jot form funnel and the lead form funnel different, but I wouldn't separate it in between like video and images. So I probably would have just had like 2 bigger campaigns there versus like launching multiple campaigns going to the US. And I think that would have made my life easier as a media buyer because it's less management because it's just one campaign. But I think it would have just worked. If you're like starting off and you've never ran ads for a client before and you've never ran ads for this offer before, then maybe you want to go a bit smaller with the budget because generally Facebook will be a little bit more efficient, especially in the beginning with that budget. Whereas if you just have never ran an ad before for a client and you start the campaign at like 2K a day, then you've got the potential to waste a lot of money. Whereas starting with lower budgets kind of forces Facebook to be a little bit more efficient with it. So it's a little easier. But again, we're not starting from scratch. So I should have probably had a bit more confidence in the ads because a lot of the ads that we're using and we launched in the beginning anyway was stuff that was proven to work last time, or at least variations of it. So that's one thing I would have done. You can see actually I launched a kind of like looking past my microphone right now. I launched a scaling campaign here. So this was for the application form. And this was at a cost cap of $7. But I launched this at like 2K, I believe, to start, or maybe it was 1.5. And it like kind of worked pretty well. And towards the end, I launched this one as well with a $2,000 budget. And again, this cost per lead was pretty good. And I feel like this one down here, which had the cost cap of 7, and these both had cost caps, by the way, but this one that had a cost cap of 7, I think this would have performed well if I'd have just launched this from the beginning versus launching this on top of like the 4 to 5 other campaigns that I had targeting the US with like the same ads in. This was basically a campaign where I looked at all of these US campaigns and I was like, which are the best ads? Grabbed them, pasted them into a new campaign with a bigger budget and a cost cap and launched it. And the cost per lead was $7.56, so it's not, the best. But I think if I didn't have those other campaigns and I just launched this one, I just put them all into one big campaign, it would have got a lower cost per lead, it would have made it easier, and I probably could have like spent, just 4 or 5K a day on this one campaign. And the results probably would have been better. So, that's another thing. Again, that's probably what I would have done. When I do launch larger campaigns with like a 2K plus budget, I do like to use cost caps. And my cost cap is basically what is like the allowable cost per conversion I would accept. So in this instance, you can see that our average cost of the lead was like $6. So I don't want to go, like, obviously I want the cost per lead to be $5, right? I want it to be $4, but you don't want to put the cost cap as like $4 because realistically, you're not giving the algorithm enough room. And is probably not going to spend the money. So I'll put the cost cap a little bit higher than what the average is, just to give it a little bit more room. And at the end of the day, I'm still kind of happy with the $7 cost per lead. Like I said on the spreadsheet before, when I was doing the projections before the launch started, even at $7.50 cost per lead, we could still be really profitable for this client. So I didn't want it to spend that. Obviously, it did end up spending that. But again, I feel like if I didn't have all these other campaigns competing with each other, then that would have been a lot cheaper. So that's something different I would have done. Secondly, like another big thing is I didn't get enough creatives from the client. So not that like we spent millions of dollars, so we kind of like maxed out the market, but I would say there was not enough variation in our creatives when it came to like the style of ad or the messaging. So even though we had different static images and we had kind of like enough-ish different videos from the client, I think the videos were all a little bit too similar. You know, yeah, we used different hooks at the beginning. Yeah, there was some different teaching points in some of the ads. And we filmed like the same ad maybe like 2 or 3 times to create variations. But I felt like they all just looked and felt very similar. And I feel like, yes, okay, even though we touched on maybe different pain points and a few different like messaging in there, I just felt like they were all a bit too similar. And I felt like that stopped us from being able to like tap into like different parts of the market. So I think next time, even just like simple things like all the ads were filmed in pretty much the same location, you know? So even though, you know, you might see the ad of the client and then the next ad might pop up, but because he looks the same, he's dressed the same, he's got the same background, you might just be like, oh, I've already seen the ad. Even though it could be talking about a different pain point that you would actually resonate with. And that's not like the only thing to change, obviously like the background and the setting, but it can obviously help grab different attention. And again, it's kind of stops ad blindness if different ads are filmed in like completely different ways. So I think at a certain point, we kind of like probably around that time where we jumped from like a $6 cost per lead on average to like a $7 cost per lead. I feel at that point, we kind of like maxed out in that short period of time where we have to spend a lot of money quickly and Facebook is taking that budget and just showing it to lots of different people. I think we have to like come up with a bit more variety in the types of ads that we're running. And one way we probably should have done that, and this is something that, you know, lots of people can do, is, you know, you all have like one probably kind of like main avatar for your business, but there's lots of different types of people within that avatar. And I felt like our ads were speaking to like the more general one. Whereas what we probably could have done is split off the avatar into like 5 different types of people and labeled them like A, B, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we could have made ads. We could have made like a whole set of ads, like 10 plus ads for like person number 5. And their pain points and situation and even like what they were trying to achieve could be different to, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas we kind of just like spoke to them all as one, with like we spoke to the pain points that applied to every single person. Not every single person is in the world, but within our specific avatar. But what we probably could have done is been a bit more strategic and just created a bunch of ads and split them off completely. And because like the situations that person 5 goes through on a day-to-day basis could be completely different to what person, you know, 1 goes through. And I think like e-commerce businesses are far better at this than info companies. I think it's probably because e-com businesses, a lot of them anyway, are a lot more ad reliant, and you know, generally e-com businesses spend more money on ads than we do in the info space as like a general rule. I think they've got a lot better and they're a lot more advanced with the creative strategy and how they actually, you know, can run an ad account that has 1,000 plus ads running in it. Whereas I feel like in the info space, a lot of the time it's create like a few different key ads that work and try and scale those. Whereas ecom is just like they're testing like 100 different things at once. So I think coming up with a more strategic plan on how to make the creatives, where we can splinter it off for more like niche specific people within our group, I think that would be best. I think I saw a post previously on, I think it was like, is it like Loop Ring, like the earbuds or what are they called? I can't even think what they're called now. Earplugs. And someone did a post on it and they were like, you know, they've made hundreds of millions in sales from ads over the last couple of years. And the way they did it was like they had like multiple different personas. And they made like full-on ad campaigns targeting someone who wants earplugs for this specific scenario. And they made campaigns and a whole funnel and a whole sales process specifically for this type of person, right? So like the person who maybe can't sleep and the person who maybe has ear problems and tinnitus, and maybe they made ads for the person who needs them at work, or maybe they created ads for people that like to go to like concerts, but they're getting ear damage or whatever. Like there's obviously a lot of different people that like earplugs, and I feel like that company did that very well, where they split off the whole marketing to appeal to different types of people. So I think that could be like the next stage of our development. I think we've relied upon just having like good ads with a good offer, which is fine. But now I feel like the next time, if we were to spend, 300K, 400K, 500K in like, 5 weeks, we need to really get strategic and, get a little bit more strategic. Like I said, I feel like the quality of what we have produced is good, but if we want to take it to the next level, we can't just like ask our client to be like, hey, can you just make an ad quickly about this pain point? And they'll just like film it with the camera and then send it over to us. We need to be a little bit more strategic. But I also work with like people in the law of attraction spiritual space. And sometimes they aren't the best at structure. Like they don't work in that way. Like we've had clients in the past that have been in like the business space, and we would like literally be like, right, film this with all these different hooks, then film this with this different hook, film this. And it's like very strategic and like step by step. And it's very like regimented, and they'll just like film everything perfectly, send it over, and it's perfect. But sometimes like people in like the spiritual space, they don't really work like that. If I send them over like a big document with a ton of text and a load of information, it's just like shit they can't even look at. So sometimes it's not that easy when you're dealing with that type of like creative inflow person to send them just like a big document being like, hey, to spend like 4 hours going through this document and reading off it. So as a service provider, when you're working with different clients, you also need to like tailor your communication style and tailor your way of working to the client as well. Because there's no point me sending them over a big document like that if I just know they're not going to use it. Like, cool, I've ticked off a box and been like, well, I've done my job. I've sent you over the brief. But if I know it's not the way they work, then what's the fucking point in doing the work, right? So I need to like adjust how I work and tailor it to the client once I know kind of like the best way of working to get the best possible ads and the best possible results. So just spitfiring some ideas, kind of like what I've been thinking about. If you guys got any questions about any of the ad stuff, let us know. Any questions about anything I shared. And yeah, I'll make another video once we've started to sell, started to see the sales come in, and we can kind of, we can have a look at the return on ad spend. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's better than the projections that I shared today. But yeah, that'll be out in a week or so. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.